zone control. This is going to be an overview of the product, the pieces, the why we need it, that kind of thing. I'm going to focus today on the conventional zoning and the wireless zoning. I'm going to stay away from what I'll call the networked zoning, really because that's an hour presentation in itself. So if you need a cell phone or internet to turn on, turn off your zone control system, we'll have to talk about that another day. So when we talk about why zoning, it's actually a pretty easy question. It's because people want it. You know, if you look at the statistics, people aren't comfortable in their homes the way they should be. You know, they get a new home and they just paid, it doesn't have to be $400,000, it could be $200,000, and they're not comfortable. So that's why we need zone control. If you offer zone control, people will buy it. We look at statistics, and 4 out of 10 people who were offered a zone system bought it. So what would that do to your bottom line if you were able to sell 4 zone systems out of, you know, say every 10 new installs that you did? One of the problems is that on these 2-story houses, you can be very comfortable on the first floor, but when you try to go to sleep, you're not comfortable upstairs. It's a big problem, and people don't want to be hot while they're trying to sleep. With zoning, we're able to fix that problem quite simply with the use of dampers and some extra thermostats. We look at all the different things that are going on in, you know, not only the industry, but I could say the world. It's funny how even cars can be more comfortable for individuals than a house can. So there's a lot of zone systems out there. Why would we go with Honeywell? There's a lot of, I say, different reasons, but really what I look at is the fact that they have the right product, a lot of different products for the application. They have sales and marketing support. They have great local support, and they have a technical support that's really second to none. The homeowner, again, they're looking at zone control because they want to be comfortable, but it also gives them the opportunity to save energy. You know, you can heat only certain areas of the house, cool only certain areas of the house, and do it on a zone-by-zone basis. There's a lot of contractor benefits or engineering benefits, but really what it comes down to is contractors are able to make more money with zone control. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, you know, looking at this versus a 2-system house. You know, we could do that maybe offline. But really, the idea here is what I'll call a win-win. You get to make the customer more comfortable, and you get to make some more money. Makes sense to me. When we look at getting started with zone control or the layout, a lot of questions come up. You know, how do we do it? How do you zone it? That kind of stuff. You know, in a 2-story house, I think it's pretty easy. You go upstairs, you go downstairs, 2-zone system. I'd say that's the easiest one. You know, the harder ones are, you know, long ranches, that kind of thing. But really, what I try to do is get it into daytime or nighttime zones where, you know, people are sleeping and they're comfortable in one zone, and then they can put the other zone in a setback situation to where they're saving energy. Some of the other opportunities for zone control, you know, anytime there's 2-story house, they have expensive glass or sunrooms sometimes, finished basements, or maybe that bonus room, atrium designs, or the long ranches, you know, where one side of the house is comfortable, the other side isn't. Proper designing of a zone system really comes down to manual J. We're not doing anything different in terms of airflow other than sending it one place versus the other. So the house as a system still has to be sized for manual J. We're not fixing airflow problems with zoning. If you don't have enough airflow, this isn't going to help you. Here's two different ways in a typical two-story house. You know, first zone is the downstairs, you know, the living area. Second story would be, you know, where the people are sleeping, maybe a bathroom or two. And that's what I'll call the easy one. The second situation there, you start throwing in a home office or different zones. Now you went from 2 zones to 3 zones, but that's typically how we like to see it laid out. Here's my drawing of a long ranch. I apologize for the grade school coloring. Basically, here we have a 3-zone system on a 1200 CFM system. I would put the living room on one zone, and then the bedrooms on another zone, and then I left kind of the kitchen, the dining room, the bath on another zone, along with the hallway. And if you look at the CFMs there, you know, and not that this is to scale, but if the living room was 360 and the kitchen and dining room were 320 and the bedrooms were 520, I think we'd be pretty safe with a 3-zone system there. Now, if we look at this system and we're starting to calculate bypass, really what I want you to do is look at the system as a whole, meaning the 1200 CFM, and then we always go worst case scenario. So if that smallest zone is the only one calling, that 320 CFM, basically we need to bypass, you know, 880 CFM. So my recommendation on that would be, you know, maybe a 10-inch or a 12-inch to handle worst case scenario on that. For bypass setup, we always get a lot of questions on this, and basically the way it works with these barometric bypasses is that if you turn on all the zones, every zone is calling, that bypass should not be open. Sounds simple enough, right? And then on the other end, if the smallest zone is calling, it should be open. So that, I mean, it's a 5-minute deal to figure out if your bypass is set right. And to adjust that arm, it's a real simple movement of moving that counterweight. Here's bypass installation. Quite simply, we just go from the supply to the return. We want to keep that downstream a little bit, so we're not putting, you know, hot air right into the return. When we start looking at the components of a zone system, it really comes down to what I'll say 4 components. First, you need a panel. Then you need thermostats. You need your dampers, and then a discharge air temperature sensor and a bypass. And then the only other question is, you know, are you going wireless or not? Because that may affect your equipment a little bit. But look at a components overview. Again, I apologize for my drawing. The way this works on a conventional system, your thermostat is going to go to the panel, and I always get asked, you know, how many wires is that? It really depends on the thermostat that you're using and the equipment that you're using. If you have a single stage piece of equipment and a single stage stat, you know, 4 wires. You know, if you're, 4 wires. If you're using a more complicated thermostat, you know, getting into 2-stage equipment, you're going to have to pull more wires. So you go from the stat to the panel, from the panel to the equipment, and then the only other thing you have is 2 wires from the damper to the panel. and then you don't want to forget about your bypass. That guy's got to go in there, but there's no wiring. But that's all the components that you should need. Wireless makes this a little bit simpler. Basically, you have a panel to the furnace, and then you have 2 wire dampers from the equipment or from the panel to the dampers, and then no wires between the thermostat. And then again, don't forget your bypass. On the wireless system, we have a upgraded thermostat that can do a lot of other things in terms of indoor air quality, and that is a wired thermostat. So you have to run wires from the thermostat to the panel, but it's wireless, or I should say it has wireless capabilities in terms of it can do other things. We'll talk about that a little bit later. You still run the wires from your damper, and then you could have other thermostats around the house, up to 3 other thermostats that are wireless. And then don't forget your bypass. Zone panels. We call them conventional because you can use any thermostat. Makes no difference. They're compatible with the Discharge Air Temp.Sensor. They have the equipment protection. They can work with any damper. I like to see them with 2 wire dampers. Sometimes the 3 wires get confusing. Compatible with all brands for the most part.
Unless it's something proprietary, but
yeah, we've run into just 1 or 2 situations where it didn't make sense, where we had to do some strange things. But for the most part, it's a interchangeable board with the thermostats. We get a lot of questions on which panel do I need? And I think it comes down to just a few simple questions. First, the type of equipment. What does that mean? Well, are we dealing with a heat cool or a heat pump? And that'll dictate the board. Do you need single stage or multi-stage? And then your number of zones. And then are you going conventional or are you going wireless? That's really, with those few questions, we can tell you exactly which panel you need. So here's the options for panels these days. And I tried to break this down. I use HZ for Honeywell zoning, and then the next number, your number of zones. So in the HZ3, we got a 3-zone panel, and then it's your number of stages of heating and cooling. So a 3-zone panel with 1 stage of heat, 1 stage of cool. Go to the next board, zone control, 2 zones, 2-stage heat, 1 stage cool, all the way up to we're dealing with 4 zones. That's the simplest way I can figure to pick your zone control panel. These panels have a lot of features, and I don't have time to get into all of it, but what I wanted to talk about was these push-in terminals. You're not dealing with tiny screwdrivers trying to get a wire in there. You just push down the terminal, slide the wire right into it, and it'll catch. Variable speed blower operation and no configuration. These are extremely simple zone panels. The HZ2, again, variable speed, no configuration, 2 zones.
heat pump, not so much right
Yeah, and we don't use a ton of heat pumps out here, but we do run into a few of them. Okay, we start getting into the 3-zone. What I want you to take a look at is this is a standard or a conventional panel that is also RedLINK enabled. So this can be a wireless zone control panel. And with that, you get menu-driven setup, you get standardized checkout. You're getting into a more feature-ridden zone panel versus the easier, what I'll call new construction panel. The HZ4, this is the guy that does everything. We started 4 zones. We can go up to 32 zones. It has all the features we already talked about, and it's also RedLINK enabled. So this is the panel we're going to use 9 out of 10 times because this guy will do everything you need it to do. 3-stage heat, 2-stage cool. and it's expandable and it's wireless enabled. Nice little feature on this is that it has the mounting holes for 2x4s, so you don't have to be on one side or the other. It'll fit. Can you talk about this real quick?
Sure. So as Honeywell's developed products in the last couple years, we've actually interviewed contractors, you guys, to see what you could use in new stuff and not second guess. And you probably remember a lot of the zoning panels put in the past look like a spaghetti mess. So what we've done, we've added channels, so you can actually run the wires on each side and provided opportunity for you to tie them neatly. So if the cover goes on, they're hidden. And then panel's actually raised about a ½ inch, so you can put your wires in back of it as well. So we're going to give you guys an opportunity to make them look a lot more professional than we did in the past.
Thanks, Monique. I'm sorry. Transformers. This is another constant question we get about zone control. And really you can use any size transformer. We always start with a 40 VA, but if we're going to use a lot of dampers, we bump it up to a 75. So it just really depends on which way we're trying to go. If you have, just a few dampers, 40 is good. You got a bunch of dampers, jump it up to a 75.
There's been a myth, and at every zoning meeting I've had in the past, they say, oh, you can't use zoning with variable speeds. Well, that's just what the equipment manufacturers want you to believe. And actually you can. So what happens is you just have your zoning built into it, and there's no negative effect at all. So that's one of those HVAC myths out there. Let's see, what else? Dual fuel, probably not getting into a lot of that up here, but again, the changeover is there through the second stage heat, triggers it. So we've really thought of everything. So again, totally compatible with variable speed, dual fuel, and multi-stage. Not to worry.
Some of the other features that these boards come with, they have the Discharge Air Temperature-Sensor limit. You can use that in a multi-stage inhibitor, and you can use these boards to power many different dampers without added relays and extra transformers, things like that. It has an auto changeover feature that you can set depending on your needs. It has a purge configuration, so you can get that conditioned air to the space that you want it to be. And then if you want, you can have this board do the staging for you, which is a nice feature in certain situations. Wiring of this guy. Again, you start with 2 wires from the damper to the board, and then you run, yeah, you can do a daisy chain if you like. That can make it easy. And then you also go from the stat to the board in a conventional system, and then you go from the board to the equipment. And the equipment sometimes could be 4 wires and could be more depending on your specific situation and what we're trying to control. All right, now to pick a stat, and we got a lot of them to choose from. Basically, it comes into, you can do programmable, non-programmable, or some of the older electromechanical thermostats. Again, compatible with whatever you want. And you can always go into the new thermostats, either the Prestige or the wireless thermostats. Anything you want to add about
Well, what's nice is with the Honeywell zoning system, well, maybe you've just put in some new thermostats in the last year. Our zoning panels will work with any non-proprietary thermostat. So if you've got a typical mix of thermostats in that house, you're not going to have to charge them and add extra cost. So that's an attractive feature for the homeowner to go over to zoning and not assume you just put in a new thermostat last season. Not a problem. They're not a throwaway. They're still good.
Thanks, Monique. tight spot. The dampers. Basically, what I'm going to say about these, they're good quality, high quality dampers that are going to last. 2-wire operation, and they're set for power close, spring open. And basically what that means is that if these dampers fail during the course of their lifetime, they're going to fail open so that you can get heating or cooling to that zone. And that's really the biggest reason behind the spring open. It is reversible, so you can change that if needs be. Maybe you're adapting to an older system, or for whatever reason you need it. They have the Kevlar gears, which just make it quiet, and it makes it last long. Rectangular dampers, parallel blades. Again, they have that Kevlar gearing so that it makes them last. Oh, you can also change the ranges. I don't see people messing with this an awful lot, but if you needed a damper to not close 100%, maybe for a bypass situation, or usually something's wrong if we have to do that, but it is possible to make the change. Here's a new damper that I'm not sure if everybody is aware of. This is the retrofit damper, and this is for the situation where there's an existing house, existing ductwork, and maybe a lot of 6-inch runs, for example. And basically all we have to do is cut a little slit in the ductwork, slide this guy in, and we're ready to go. They come in a handful of sizes, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Should cover most of what we're looking at. But this guy has helped out quite a bit, makes zoning a lot easier in those retrofit applications. Again, 2 wires. There's no polarity. It's just a common. What does the M6 mean? Oh, they're normally open. Yeah, and we could change that if we needed to. Installation, if we go by the book, they want dampers 3 feet away from the plenum and 6 feet from a diffuser. I know that's not always possible, but it's what I'll call best case to try to avoid any kind of noise with the damper. Damper sizes, these things come in all sizes is really what I'll say. The common sizes are 10 by 8 and 24 by 8. These can be side mount or bottom mount. The round sizes come, 6 to 18, in 2-inch increments. And the retrofits, like we talked about, are 5 through 8. The bypasses in round are 8 inches through 16 inches, depending on the CFM needs. And they have rectangular. What I wanted to talk about is we get into a lot of commercial applications where we're dealing with bigger dampers or strange sizes, 22 by 30 or 35, whatever it is. Honeywell has a system set up to where they can do custom dampers in a relatively quick amount of time. So for those commercial applications, or what I'll say strange ductwork situations in a house, they can accommodate that. The zoning systems come in kits, and basically what a kit does, it gives you the panel, it gives you a transformer, and the discharge air temperature sensor. So at that point, all you really need are your dampers, for the zones and then for your bypass. Makes it real simple. All right, now as we jump into wireless, basically what we're trying to do here is make life even easier for the contractor, so you don't have to pull wires from the thermostat to the panel. These panels are good for up to 4 zones. Can be programmable and non-programmable, and it's basically 4 wires from the adapter to the TrueZONE panel. So what I want you to see here is that you still have your zoning panel, and then you're going to have a wireless panel, and there's just 4 wires between those two. key features on the wireless zone control. Dual fuel, which we're not seeing a lot of. 4 zones, it's wireless. And the nice thing here is that we can see outdoor temperature and relative humidity at all the thermostats. So we're doing a little bit of communication here. And then with this portable comfort control here in the middle of your screen, we can access all of the thermostats from one central control. Okay, so dual zone retrofit zoning. Basically, you have a typical situation, an older thermostat that goes to the furnace. Maybe it's in the wrong space. Maybe they just are hot upstairs. What we can do is, obviously throw in another thermostat through a zone control system like that, or wire in a panel and then you just put a thermostat up there. You don't have to run wires down 2 stories to get them zoning up there. Makes it a lot easier. Retrofit zoning. So this would be where they already have zoning?
Yes. So what happens here is maybe there hasn't been a zone up on the 3rd floor or another part of the house that required some tricky wiring that you might lose your shirt on if you attempted that. So you've got a traditional panel. It might not even be Honeywell, but you can now go back to that client base and say, gosh, now that the kids are gone or you've got your home office, whatever, change of needs. Exactly. You can go back, and with the current zone panel, wires are dumb. If you've got an empty zone, just wire in the equipment interface module and then have your wireless off that. So you've added one zone, made some money, and really pleased the customer.
Multiple zones from one central location. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but what we're able to do is basically sit on the couch and change all your zones from one central spot. So you can go through the upstairs, the downstairs, the living room, all from your bed if you want.
Just part of the wireless technology. If you've ever seen our demos, you know that you just have to keep them 2 feet apart or there's some interference. That's not a difficult thing to do. And then as far as connecting all the wireless, it's a push of a button. And just a word on that if we haven't talked to you about our wireless system. RedLINK, reliable and secure. It's our own internet, our own Intel, our own Bluetooth. We did the system in conjunction with our security division, which has about 92% of our alarm systems are wireless. So there's no interference. We have our own bandwidth registered with the government, 902 to 928 bandwidth, and we say it's stronger than a wire because you can't break it with a nail. It goes up to a half a mile through concrete, metal, through a couple warehouses, so it's been tried and true.
Oops, sorry. Here's an example of just the 4 wires going from the standard zone control board to the wireless enabled panel. Here's the push of the button Monique was talking about. When you have your stuff set up, you basically press this button. It's going to go out and find your thermostats and your RedLINK enabled components and set them up. So it'll know to look for them. Here's some of the options that make this control panel, I'd say, so much nicer than the other guys. The first one is portable comfort control. We talked about that a little bit. We have a wireless outdoor temperature sensor that also looks at RH. And then we have a discharge air temperature sensor, making sure that we don't have any problems with the equipment. So I think we're covered from a lot of different angles here. This discharge air temperature sensor, basically what we want it to do is shut off the zone system about 15 degrees before your high limit. We want it to open up the zones before we have any kind of problems with the equipment. Basically, it's 2 wires. You set it at the panel, and it'll protect your equipment. Comes in the box. It's really a great tool. And really, we want this thing in the plenum. I don't know where else we'd put it. Seen it anywhere strange. The wireless outdoor temperature sensor. This guy's nice. One screw, you can put it anywhere, on a tree, on a deck, on the side of the house. And it will be able to read outdoor temperature and relative humidity at every single thermostat in the house, and your portable comfort control. This portable comfort control is nice because this guy's like a remote for your heating and cooling system. You can change your temperature. You can look at different thermostats. It'll tell you what's going on outside. It'll tell you relative humidity. You really don't have to move, and you can change any thermostat in the house. We find that this guy's great for, if the in-laws are staying over and their room's too hot or too cold, you can take a set point from there. It's great if there's a new baby in the house and you want to make sure that room is cool. A lot of different uses for this thing, but it really makes life easy. The wireless stuff comes in kits, which again makes it real easy. There's only a handful of questions we need to ask. What board do you need? How many zones? Do you want the nice thermostat, or do you want the wireless Focus Pro? If you go with the Focus Pro, do you want programmable or non-programmable? After that, it's what kind of options do you want? Do you want the portable comfort control or not? They've really made it a seamless operation with a couple questions. We can figure out exactly what you need and give you a whole system. Honeywell has a 5-year limited warranty on their zoning products. They have a technical support line just for zone control. You guys should check out the forwardthinking.honeywell.com for any kind of new information. They're always coming out with new stuff. Here at HVAC Solutions, we have a hands-on lab in Melrose Park where you can look at some of this stuff. We also do webinars every Monday, just like this one. If you guys have any questions, here's my email. Feel free to shoot me a line, and we'll get any of your questions answered. I want to say thanks to Monique from Honeywell for helping me out with this, and really appreciate your time. Thank you.